Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Inspired Voices with Sangwadzi. With me, Sangwadzi Spiweka Mapfumo. Inspired Voices is a pop platform where I bring you guests, ordinary people who are doing extraordinary work in our communities, and they amplify their voices to educate us and to inspire us. Because a lot of times we don't really know what's going on in our communities, but there are people who are doing incredible stuff. And today, we are going to talk about a very touchy subject, which I know anybody who is in Zimbabwe is interested in hearing. We have a big problem with young people, adults, and using illicit drugs and alcohol. Uh, Government is trying to do all it can, but there are some people who are doing amazing stuff to try and rectify or maybe to help people who are struggling with it. My guest today is a young man who I would like to thank for coming in and to talk to us about his journey with illicit drugs, alcohol, and how he turned around and doing quite well. Tonderai Maphosa, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Spi. We're glad to be on the program.
Fantastic. So tell me, I'd like to start. I have to start by asking, Tonderai, who are you? How did you? Okay, talk to me a little bit about how you got into it, and who are you, and how you
Right.
got into drugs.
All right. Like you've just mentioned, thank you once again. I'm Tonderai Maphosa. I am currently who I am. I'm founder and trustee for the Anti-Drug Addiction and Abuse Trust, ADAT. And I'm also a national drug and substance abuse champion. Tonderai Maphosa is a man who the story is a blend of a struggle, a real big struggle and redemption after addiction to 7 different substances over a period of 15 long years. So yeah, in a nutshell, before we go deeper into the conversation, I guess, but that's how you could summarize me. I am an anti-drug and substance abuse advocate, hoping to get to a drug-free generation one day.
Okay, so you're doing a lot of things now. Well, we'll talk about now later. Let's talk about then. You started using drugs when you were a freshman at university. Talk about that. Take us through that
Yeah,
journey.
yeah, yeah. Yes, I was a freshman in university. Just gotten out of high school. All my education was at church schools, so a lot of the education that we had there was education that was anti getting into drugs and stuff like that. So got to university. There was a lot of mixtures of cultures, a lot of different people coming from various parts of the world, and I got caught up with different types of friends. I no longer had curfew. The parents really were not on my back too much about anything. So I was 21 at the time, and while at Solusi, guys would go for the weekend. Yeah, during that time it was called Ama Thursdays. So Ama Thursdays are the time people would get into town, go and have a good time in town, and come back. When they came back, I was like, "How come you guys are still looking so tired from a weekend you left for on Thursday?" And I found out now that's hangover. I was like, what type of fun is this that gets people hungover up to now? They left on Thursday. Nah, it's club and it's the bar. I'd been watching things about the bar scene on TV, the club, and it appealed to me. I thought, now let me go and have a look and let me go and see what goes on in the bar. And sure enough, to my curiosity, I saw what happens in the bar. Uh, the lights, the women, everything in there just totally baffled me. But I was not so good at dancing. I thought that probably the alcohol was going to help me with my dance moves and things like that. And everybody else in the bar was holding a beer, something I knew from a very tender age I shouldn't have been touching. But I went on and I grabbed my very first alcoholic beverage. It was a Reds Polar. So yeah, after taking that, I think we know what the science of addiction is. The first beer led to the second beer. I got tipsy. I liked the feeling. Dopamine release. First time being high. I really liked this. And so that then led to the next thing. The beer led to the cigarettes, led to the next thing. So, in a nutshell, that's how the whole episode began.
It's something that you went to Solus University, right?
Yes, I did.
I think it's also important to point out who your father is, because there is a misconception or people stereotype that, kids who get into these drugs are just people who don't have responsible families. Sometimes they're just like in the streets doing nothing. Nobody gives them any advice or proper upbringing. I think it's important to mention who your father was. You went to Salus University. Tell us
Wow.
about your family.
Wow. My father is Professor Norman Maposa. And at the time, believe it or not, he was the vice chancellor at Solusi University. That is the mother of all Adventist missions in Africa, Solusi University. Some call it the Holy of Holies. That's where a lot of our pastors are trained. So, yeah, uh, Papa, as we affectionately call him, Professor Norman Oposa, was the vice chancellor at Solusi when I began this. The vice
And
chancellor's
you
son, violating and doing everything that his father is standing up for and building at the institution.
You told me how many substances. You said you started with alcohol, and it was the drug, and the cigarettes, and then weed, and then on and on.
Right,
And
right.
for 15 years, you struggled with
Yes.
that, right? And you were taking how many? But in the end, I mean,
Seven.
when you
At the height of my addiction, I was addicted to seven different substances. Yeah, you just named a few of them. It was alcohol, cigarettes, which then called in the marijuana, then the codeine, diazepam tablets, cat. It has got effects similar to cocaine, cheap cocaine, I like to call it, and then lastly, crystal meth. At the height, so it was seven uh, substances that I was addicted to.
tell me how was your day like during that time? Because I would like to assume if you were a freshman, you had to drop out of
Right.
school.
Right. I don't know if I'm going to call it dropping out of school as per se, because factually, it was actually suspension and then expulsion, right? Because what then happened was the Papa, Professor Norman Maposa, the Vice Chancellor, um, was between a rock and a hard place. I ended up having to steal. My typical day during the addiction, I started stealing. Papa was taking care of my fees. He was taking care of my accommodation, my clothing, my books, but no money for extracurricular activities. Certainly not going to bar. So I ended up adopting habits which would finance me getting into town. You know, the scene in town, what I'd seen there the first time, it really blew my mind. I was like, I have to get this up again. So, yeah, my days were spent calculating what I was going to do, and I fell into theft. And just to probably speak about what you spoke about, what you asked earlier and actually mentioned, that there's a popular assumption that drug addiction is only for those people less advantaged, the poorer people. Um, no, it's not. I had everything that I needed, everything. Yet I got caught in the clutches.
I do know that there's some adults who are working, who've got real jobs, professional jobs, who are doing drugs, and sometimes when they overdose or something happens, people can't believe that when they're told that no, it was an overdose or they just died. And sometimes they just die, and they just don't die because they overdose. what is going on? Give us a picture of what's happening in the streets with drugs.
Right. The drug wave is quite relentless in the streets because at the time when I was using, I only stopped using in 2021. Yeah, that's about 3 years ago now. And the range, right, of people that are using was all the way from 12 years right up to the 40-year-olds, 45-year-olds were using. Up until recently, when I was out in the bush doing some work. I remember you called and I was in the bush. There's this man, I believe he was at least 60 years old, and he was on this new alcohol they have now here in Zimbabwe that's called Tumbwa, which is really like
Mm-hmm,
petrol. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
the streets have become so unfriendly. You know, I hear that back in the day. Um, People used to really hide themselves getting high. It was taboo to see people in the streets smoking marijuana, sometimes even cigarettes. People would hide, but right now, get out of the road, get out of the house, and take a walk down or up the road. People are taking marijuana willy nilly right in the open. So it's become chaotic, really, especially in parts like high fields
mm-hmm.
where addiction then really took a grip of me. It's a mess.
It's a mess. It is a mess. I mean, I saw that when I was in Zimbabwe visiting, and I could not believe it because I'm from the old generation, maybe your dad's generation, and to us, more so women, it was just unheard of. It was unheard
Right,
of. I'm
right,
from Mutoko.
right.
I'm from
Mm,
Mutoko, where weed is the place where they grow weed, right?
mm,
But we just
mm.
yes, yeah. But we just used to hear about this. But hardly ever heard of any woman who uses weed, for instance.
Right,
But now,
right.
young people in the
It's
townships, they smoke, and it's a common thing. Like you painted a proper picture of what's happening there with that. But with you, you told me that your journey, how it started, and
mhm,
what you were
mhm,
taking, and how you got it, how you
mhm,
got money,
mhm.
and stealing. And I'm sure your family, your parents also got to a point where they were actually quite scared of you because they didn't know what you do to get your
Wow.
hands on money. Yeah.
Mm,
How did
mm.
it stop? What happened? What was the final? How did you hit rock bottom? And then, because you were not taken. I don't think you were taken to for rehab in the rehab place or whatever. What happened with your case?
All right. The stealing got progressive. Uh, while I was at Lucy, I broke into the computer lab. I wiped it off the computers in there. Remember, my dad was the vice chancellor over there. It got to a stage where I went to jail. I came back. That wasn't enough to cure me of the addiction. After that, I got suspended. I got back to school, back to crime again. I defrauded the students of the money they'd come with the fee for fees, and nothing could stop the addiction. When it comes to my parents, um, my mom had a very keen and observative eye. She always knew that Tonderai was the cause when things went amiss. It got to a point where uh, Papa and Mama couldn't have me home anymore, and they banished me from home. They sent me away from home because they were scared of me. Wherever I was, there was certain chaos that was going to occur. It got to a point where when I would be amongst people, that I would see people really holding tightly onto their belongings
Mm,
because I was a terror like that. Uh, Totally devastated my family. My sister seeing me expelled. Uh, I believe it should have shook my dad to the core. Being the vice chancellor, I'm supposed to set an example at a school, but your child is the one that's going against everything that the school stood up for. Yeah,
mhm.
it was really tough. Then when my mom passed, and she passed on, she left me quite a sizable inheritance, which I just sold, totally squandered. So on the family, it should have been tough. But I believe I deal with a lot of families right now who've got individuals, brothers, sisters, uncles, dads stuck in addiction. They're having a torrid time. They're having a terrible time.
How did it feel? How did it feel when you wanted your high? How I don't know if you can express it in words. The feeling that you
Right.
had, which would push you to take whatever. It didn't matter how else you do it. You just needed your high. Then how did it feel?
It's a compulsion, an overwhelming force to get what you need. You're going to get what you need, no matter what. The craving, you can't control it. It was so bad in the middle of the night because while I was addicted, being broke was the normal. I would get out of the house dead in the middle of the night with a torch, so I could search the streets for cigarette butts. What a cigarette butt is someone smokes a cigarette, they get tired of it, and they throw it away. I was looking to pick those up so I could smoke them. So I think that can just give you a little bit of a picture of how strong the force was to get me to find something to smoke. I was totally out of control. I had no power to say no. I had no power to not want them. I was under, for lack of better words, a spell from
Yeah.
the drugs.
I know the feeling that I get when I want a donut. Okay,
Wow.
like that sugar and donut. Like I have a donut, and I gotta go to I don't know if that's the same.
Yeah.
It gives me it kind of gives me an idea of what it's like when you want something and like I want it now, right? Yeah. So,
Right.
how did it stop? How, how did you hit rock bottom? And did you decide? I don't know if you just sat down and said, "I've had enough of this. I gotta stop," or what happened?
Um, yeah. I had gotten to a point where um, all my friends who had gone to school, who I was performing a lot better than, were far ahead of me. Right. I I had a child. I got into a relationship. I had a child with a schoolmate. It's a Lucy. They left. She left me. I had another child again with another lady, and she too left again. So everybody was leaving me. I was alone. Everybody was scared of me. No one wanted to be with me. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. When I'd look at myself in the mirror, I was ailing. I was ish. I'd see my friends who I learned with coming from that direction. I had to run away. I had to go another
Mm,
direction. It was so. When I looked at this, I said to myself, "No, this really can't be what life was." And it got to a point where the drugs were really painful. Right, each drag of a cigarette was hitting me so badly in my chest. I was getting pain everywhere. It was a mess. And that's when
mhm,
I looked at my situation and I was like, nah, this really can't be what I was built for. This is not why I'm on this earth. And I had lost everything. I'd lost everything. The word that you use when you say rock bottom is a point I believe that one needs to get to before they want to get out of drugs. You've got to
mhm,
realize that, woo, this is it. So, yeah, uh, it was terrible. It was painful. It was physically painful, emotionally
mhm,
painful,
mhm.
all painful that you can get.
Yeah.
It was a situation.
Did what then did you do? Did you go to your dad and said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore," or what happened?
Um, on many occasions, I faked being a good person. At the point when things became bad, he didn't want anything to do with me. He didn't want anything to do with me at all. Excuse me. It's actually my sister who came through and dish that I was. But on my own part, I started to frequent church a lot. Well, I know, fortunately for me, something in me just kept telling me that no, that's the only place you're going to get help from. My dad was having none of it at all. None of it. He says when he was told that I had changed, I had amended my ways, I'd turned around, he just said bogus. Toto is just, this is one of his tricks again to try and get close so he can strike again. So, yeah, only after he saw the changes, only after he saw the work that I was doing, was he like, I guess this kid, he has made a different turn for his life and
Tonderai,
started coming to. But it wasn't easy.
are you telling me you didn't go to rehab? You just because of your faith and your father's faith. I spoke to him. He puts everything beyond him. He says, you know what? If I don't know if I've never seen God and touched him, but I'm telling you, it took some power beyond him as a father, him as a human being, for the changes that happened in you, and maybe beyond you as a person. Is that what happened? Your church was behind you.
Right. Like you mentioned, I didn't go to rehab. I went to annex because
Mm-hmm.
at that time I was starting to hallucinate so much. I was telling people that I was a prophet. I was telling them I was seeing visions.
Mm-hmm.
I went to annex and I spoke to a doctor there, and I told her that. I needed to get out of my addiction. And this is what she said to me. She said, Tonderai, there is no medication that we can give you to cure addiction. Right. So there is no medication. You can't go to hospital and say, I want to get out of addiction. They give you a tablet and it's out. She said to me, you've got to dig deep within yourself to get out
Mm-hmm.
of addiction. The strength is within yourself. So
Yeah.
it takes a real warrior, I must say,
Mm.
because it's a real fight. It's a real fight. I've likened quitting drugs sometimes to actually losing a loved one, right? You carry on wanting it, you carry on, but you just have to look for that strength within yourself to say, now, you know what? These are my hands. I'm not going to use them to get myself dirty. So yeah, my faith played a really huge big role. But yeah, there's also aspects, willpower, my own willpower, my own resolve to say I've got to get out of this. What I learned when I was younger started coming back to me as well. So it is a combination of many factors. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot attribute getting out of it to one and one thing alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was family involvement, there was my own personal will, and there was that divine intervention. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I think about how much I loved the cigarettes, how much I loved the crystal meth, and I look at just how I don't crave or want that stuff anymore, it is something that is beyond and above me.
Talk to me about the work that you're now doing. This is just, this story, lived story of somebody who's used substances. A lot of times people just hear and see those kids, but nobody talks to, I appreciate you making yourself so vulnerable and opening up and talking about things that otherwise people would rather just keep in their hearts and
Right.
struggle with it. And we know that. But thank you so much for just coming up and being open and talking about this. But I wanted you to talk to me about the work that you're now doing to help other
Right.
people.
All right. For starters, I am the founder and trustee of an organization that is called ADAT. That is the Anti Drug Addiction and Abuse Trust. What we are doing is we are running a program that we call Souls for Christ. It's a program that helps people vis a vis my lived experience to get out of addiction. right? I have totally dedicated my life to advocacy against drug and substance abuse. I'm also administrator for an organization that is called Finding Hope Africa, which is heavily involved in helping people get out of addiction as well. So, yeah, a
Mhm.
lot of the work that I'm doing now is focused on fighting the drug menace. I believe your experience, someone's experience, could be somebody's survival manual. I've
For
had
sure.
people, yeah, I've had people calling me from as far as England that have been addicted to drugs and substance abuse, and just over the phone, walking them out of addiction. I've had people from South Africa, people from the United States, from Namibia, from Botswana.
Really?
So it's yes, 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 yes. I've got testimonies upon testimonies. My faith is what I attribute a lot of things to. So yeah, my God is powerful and able. A lot of stories over the phone in Zimbabwe, one-on-ones. So yeah, it keeps growing. The movement keeps growing. The hunger, the desire for a drug-free generation grows with every step that we take.
Tonderai, I don't want anything to go wrong with our recording now because I've captured a good 26 minutes of amazing story that you've talked to me, and I appreciate. Like I told you, we kept having problem recording, but I kept saying this story has to be. It has to be heard.
Thank you,
Someone, it
thank you,
has to be heard. And thank you so much.
thank you.
I will invite you again sometime because I don't want anything to go with this recording, and I want to end it now before anything goes wrong.
Let us,
Um,
let us.
yeah. I would like to talk to you later on. I'll call you again, and then you can come to Inspired Voices to talk to me more about the work that you're doing and going forward. We hope more people will join, more people will benefit. I appreciate so much.
On an end note, before that goes, I just want everybody to know that's listening to this, where there is life, there is always hope. Do never, never think about giving up. If you're alive, you've got hope to do something to get out of that addiction. And if anybody needs to call somebody to speak to somebody about addiction, it is +263 776 837 088. I'll repeat, +263 776 837 088. The line is open 24/7. God bless you.
Thanks, Tonderai. And for people who are listening, please follow us on this YouTube channel. I would like to have it on Facebook, but I need to have 100 subscription, 100 likes, and then they will put it. Inspired Voices will have a page of its own. But meanwhile,
Wow.
you can follow us on YouTube. You can follow us on YouTube if you want to listen to this. I will post different guests every Saturday. So this Saturday, we're going to have Inspired Voices with Tonderai Maphosa. Yes.
Thank you very
So
much.
for people who are
Thanks.
following us, subscribe, like, and share with other people so that we have more people to follow the this podcast, Inspired Voices. And thank you so much, everybody. Tonderai, namaste. This is amazing work that you're doing. Appreciate it. And everybody, have a good day.
Thank you so much. Thank you.